Hello everyone, how you doing? I hope you're all doing really well today. I'm Lindsay, your host of the Heavy Metal Journal, and I'm back with New Metal Monday, where I talk about my favourite new releases of the week. And we're going to be doing things a little bit differently this week, because not only do I have 4 brand new albums that I want to talk about from this week's releases, but I also have another 2 that I want to quickly mention from last week's releases when I wasn't able to do my New Metal Monday video. Now, I haven't been able to keep up to date with absolutely everything from last week's releases because I was on holiday with my family and then I was kind of in hospital for surgery at the same time. So I kind of ran out of time. And in order for me to keep up with this week, I kind of had to lapse on last week because, understandably so, it was very busy. But before I get into those albums, I have 2 announcements that I need to make. First of all, I no longer write or interview for This Day in Metal, and that kind of leads me into my second announcement because I have introduced a brand new series on this channel called The Heavy Metal Interview, where I will be interviewing different artists, musicians, and vocalists from various different bands across the metal spectrum, where they have new albums coming out, so we kind of take a deep dive into the new albums, their careers, their likes or dislikes in metal in general, and just really cool conversations and stories from them as well. Now I have already posted 2 interviews for this series, the first of which was Swallow the Sun, and the second one that just went up yesterday was with the one and only Devin Townsend. So I will be linking them somewhere within the video. Future Lindsay will be doing that when she edits. I'm not sure whereabouts it'll be right now, so I'm going to stop flapping, but they will be somewhere, either that's in the description box or somewhere on the video at some point. But anyway, yes, the Heavy Metal Interview has now started, and all of my interviews that I do for across the metal spectrum will be featured on this channel, so stay tuned for that. But like I said, I've got 4 brand new albums that I want to talk about from this week's releases and another 2 from last week's releases, but no doubt you guys will be able to keep me up to date with last week's stuff with whatever I have missed. But yeah, let's just get on with it, shall we? Okay, so first up on my list, I have Mother of Graves with the Periapt of Absence, and this is the second studio album from the melodic death doom metal band from the US. Now, I absolutely adore death doom metal at the best of times, but this one in particular is honest to God a work of art. It has all of that glorious, dark, gloomy, melancholic, spooky edge to it that comes with doom metal, and there's honestly such a very intense beauty about it. But you've also got all of that ferocity that comes with death metal, so you can expect a lot of muscular riffs, flying solos, the drums are thunderous, and the vocal style is very guttural with that kind of doom edge to it as well. Huge melodics and harmonies within this, and it's just a really addictive, dark, enticing record that is going to keep you hooked. Plus, that album artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. So if you are a fan of the likes of Catatonia or the doomier side of Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride, that kind of sound, this one is definitely for you. But this is really cool because not only does it have, like I said, all of that ferocity of the death metal, but when it alternates between the fast-paced stuff and the more trudging, kind of slowed down mid-tempo doom stuff, it really balances out so well, and it is really well delivered. Definitely check it out. Gorgeous album. Absolutely loved it. Okay, so next up on my list here, I am probably going to pronounce this incorrectly, so feel free to make fun of me in the comments section below if I do, but I'm going to give it my best shot anyway. And that's Marcar with Rise to Power, and this is the debut album from the death metal band from the Netherlands. Now, this is an all-female death metal band, and they take huge inspiration from ancient Egypt in their death metal sound, both musically and also lyrically. So you can expect a lot of really big Nile elements and inspiration throughout this entire record, but less so on the technical side of things, because Nile is a very technical band. I mean, they're brutal technical death metal. This band are very much a death metal band through and through. This record goes hard. It is ridiculously brutal, but it does focus more on the death side of things with an underpinning of the harsher side of melody as well. It's a very enticing, ferociously devastating record, and you can actually feel the power and the energy behind this when you're listening to it. Lyrically, it's based around ancient Egypt and lots of different inspired stories from ancient Egypt, and also the music side of things as well is very death metal, but there's a few elements of kind of like Middle Eastern kind of vibes through there as well. It's very subtle, but it stands out when it does appear, if that makes sense. It's not overpowering at all, and it is very artistically well done. But huge, swelling, ferocious energy throughout this entire record, and for a debut album, it is ridiculously powerful. So if you are a fan of the likes of Nile, like I said, Arch Enemy, Behemoth, Cataclysm, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. But huge riffs, blistering blast beats, and just in your face energy and fury. Loved this. Cannot wait to see where the band goes. Okay, so next up on my list, I have the absolute titans of heavy folk metal, and that's Ensiferum with Winter Storm. And this is the band's 9th studio album. So if you like your folk heavy metal, this one is definitely for you. Now, not only does it have kind of like that rousing energy and power behind it, it's very uplifting and very motivational, but it's also lyrically based on an unpublished book written by the band's bassist Sami Hinka. So you have magic, sorcery, battles, swords, dragons, adventure, all of that really cool fantasy stuff rolled into a folk heavy metal sound from Finland, and honestly, I really enjoyed this record. You can't help but feel really motivated and uplifted, and it's a very rousing kind of battle cry of a record, and it's just really fun to listen to. And when you know the story behind this record, you can actually hear it in the lyrics, and you can pace yourself throughout the entire record. Now, I do know from speaking to Sami myself before that this album is going to have a few music videos that are kind of going to be compiled into almost like a mini movie based on the novel that the lyrics are based on, which is very, very cool. So if you are a fan of the likes of Turisas, Winter Sun, Brymere, that kind of fantasy folk heavy metal sound, this one is definitely for you. But I really, really enjoyed this record, and the album artwork is really cool too. Okay, so last up on my list, but certainly by no means least, because it's just the last from this week's releases, I have Swallow the Sun with Shining, and this is the 9th studio album from the melancholic, melodic death doom metal band from Finland. Now, I'm going to be honest, this album had me feel really uneasy and sad in the best way possible, and I know that that makes no sense whatsoever, but hear me out. Now, this album does send you everywhere emotionally. You will feel a huge range of emotions when you listen to this record, and it took me a couple of attempts to listen to it to really grasp what it was all about and what it was that I was thinking and feeling at the time. And I think when you give it one of those chances, when you've listened to it a couple of times and you've really absorbed the kind of atmosphere and the energy about it, it's something that you really do learn to appreciate. And I, honest to God, love this album now. Now, I did interview Swallow the Sun very recently, which is one of the interviews that I've now introduced onto this channel. So that will be linked. So I just hit my camera. That will be linked somewhere on the video, under the video. Like I said at the beginning of the video, future Lindsay will edit that in somewhere, but please check out my interviews because it really, really does help. And it was really cool to get a very insightful view on the record, on the recording process and the ideas behind it and the feelings and the emotions and things like that. So it does go very, very hard when it does enter into the death metal side of things, but it is very much a doom metal record with a bit of that melancholic melodic side of things. But it is beautiful, huge swelling melodics and harmonies, and it really is heartfelt. It struck me straight in my soul, and like I said, I was completely stunned listening to this, even though it took me a fair amount of times. I would say at least 3 or 4 times to listen to this to really get to grips with what the record's all about. But nevertheless, this is absolutely stunning, very melancholic and heartfelt, but the guitar intricacies and the atmosphere and that kind of, It's a very dark kind of feeling that you get when you listen to this record, but there's a hidden beauty within that as well, and it's very addictive, and it just makes you want to listen to it over and over again, even though it does make you feel a little bit unsettled at the same time. Okay, so very quickly, I want to touch on 2 albums that were released from last week when I wasn't able to post my New Metal Monday video. And the first one is Cemetry Skyline with Nordic Gothic. And this is the debut album from the gothic metal dark rock superband. So you have members of Dark Tranquillity, Amorphous, Dimmu Borgir, Omnium Gatherum, Insomnium. I'm probably forgetting a couple in there. Sentenced. This is a huge super band that are focused on the gothic metal side of things. So if you like that kind of 80s, 90s gothic kind of sound, but with a lot of really cool guitar driven elements and huge synth driven elements as well, this one is definitely for you. This is a highly addictive record. It is so fun, it is so jumpy and very, very enticing. But at the same time, there is a bit of a darkness about it as well. And like I said, it's very synth driven and very huge muscular guitars throughout all this, and Michael Staine's clean classic vocals are heard throughout the entire record, and that just adds that extra gothic element to this. So if you are a fan of the likes of Typo Negative, Sisters of Mercy, or if you even liked the new High Parasite record that was released from My Dying Bride's vocalist, his new band, this one is definitely for you. But I really enjoyed this. It's highly addictive. It's kind of like a modern take to that 80s, 90s synth-driven, guitar-heavy gothic sound with a bit of kind of like a Scandinavian twist to it, and I absolutely loved it. Definitely check it out. Okay, so last on my list, but certainly by no means least, from last week's releases, I have The Mist from the Mountains with Portal's The Gathering of Storms. And this is the second studio album from the melodic black metal band from Finland. Now, I love melodic black metal, especially the kind that takes you on a journey into this fantasy land full of adventure and dense atmosphere and ominous foreboding with serious black metal attitude. But even though it is classed as a black metal record, there's definitely a lot of death metal elements, melodic death, there's a little bit of folk metal in there as well, and it's just an absolutely stunning record. You've got huge riffs, you've got all of that synthy goodness, dense atmosphere, vocalizations, the blast beats are intense, and the melodies and the harmonies are so ridiculously addictive. But the thing that really stood out to me the most about this record is the alternating vocal styles. So not only do you have the contrast between the clean vocals and the guttural vocals, you've got different layers of those two different styles as well. So you've got your fry screams, you've also got those really doomy kind of growls, you've got the black metal element, you've got the clean element, which is very gothic tinged as well, and it just alternates throughout, but at the same time it flows so well. This is an absolutely gorgeous work of art, and if you are a fan of the likes of Fellwarden or Wraithfire or Winterfilleth, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. But I cannot get enough of this record. Like I said, I love my melodic black metal, especially the kind that you feel like you're in the middle of a story of this big grand fantasy novel full of adventure, and that is certainly what this is. Check it out. And that's it for this week's New Metal Monday. Once again, comment down below to let me know what you think of today's records, and if you have any of your own recommendations, particularly from last week, definitely let me know and I will get them checked out. But after today's video, I'm pretty much back up to speed with things. Life is starting to settle down a little bit, so hopefully I won't be too chaotic like I have been over the last week or two. I'm really sorry about that. If you could all do me a huge favour and check out my The Heavy Metal interview series, because I will be putting out more interviews on this channel now. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see me interview any other particular bands or vocalists, musicians, artists, please let me know and I will see what I can do. Thank you so much. I will see you very soon in my next video.